Hello and welcome to this week's Ferroalloys Roundup. Today I'm joined by Alex and Tom who are going to take us through the ferrovanadium and ferrosilicon markets. So Alex, what's been happening in the vanadium market?
Well, over the last week or so, we were starting to hear rumors throughout the European market that offers were falling into the lower $70 per kilo range, but we weren't really ever to confirm those numbers. It was just sort of hearsay. But earlier this week, we did start to hear about even lower offers, getting into the 60s, and we were able to finally actually confirm some consumer business that was done between $66 and $68 per kilo, which is down about 12% from where prices were previously. Now, the reason for this is that, sources are saying that sellers are getting pretty aggressive because there really hasn't been a whole lot of consumer business happening. Most of it's been intratrade. A lot of consumers have allotted their volumes through quarterly or half-year contracts. So that has really dug into the spot demand. So, traders are possibly holding on to larger inventories, so they're trying to liquidate some of those stocks, and that's driving down prices. So sellers are getting sort of even more aggressive. The competition's growing. So that's one factor. Prices in China have also declined a little bit this week, mostly, again, because consumer demand just really has been limited, and inventories have built up a little bit for V2O5. So that's sort of the situation that we're looking at. And, I mean, as you can see on the graph, pretty much all markets have come off quite a bit. And we're now at levels that we were seeing sort of around this time last year. So it's really interesting to watch. But overall, I mean, right now outlooks are cautious because, prices have dipped down before and then just come right back up. So some of the sellers that maybe don't have those excess stocks aren't really as willing to sell at lower numbers. So that's helping to support the price a little bit, some people resisting. There's also, that fundamental supply is still limited. There really isn't any excess production, additional mines coming online or anything like that. So V2O5 fundamentally is still limited. So that could help, support the market in the near term as those additional volumes get sold off and maybe if more consumers come to the spot market.
Sure. Is there a general factor as well that some of sort of niobium is now being used as an alternative to vanadium?
Yeah, that's definitely still a factor. Again, we're not really sure what the specific numbers are on that. I mean, I think a lot of the people that were able to switch over to niobium probably did that. I know that was something that was happening in China as well, was that, with the new rebar specifications, they were allowing for use of either vanadium or niobium. So that's definitely playing a factor in that. But to what extent, like long term, if that's going to keep demand low, I'm not really sure.
Sure. Okay, Alex, thanks very much. Tom, do you want to move us on to ferrosilicon?
Yeah, sure. It's a double spread this week, so I'll get on to the ferrosilicon side. As you can see from the chart, there has been a continued downtrend, for the past 12 months recently. So in Europe, specifically looking at that region, we have seen pressure mainly coming from end of Q4, where there was weaker stainless demand. There was a lot more stainless units in the market, and that resulted in less ferrosilicon being acquired and being needed. So it has had a detrimental effect onto the ferrosilicon prices, and we still saw heavily destocking in January and February for the stainless side. So many consumers didn't need ferrosilicon even in the past 2 months compared to last year. Additionally, we have also heard that there has been an additional buying strategy switch, where we are hearing that some buyers are buying more heating briquettes and using more of them. And additionally, we have also heard that some buyers who can use both silicon manganese, ferrosilicon as a deoxidizer, have opted to use more silicon manganese compared to ferrosilicon. So obviously that has had an effect on the ferrosilicon prices, and as we can see from the charts here, we could be getting perhaps low to the bottom. We know that if it does reach closer to €1,000 levels, that will result in production cutbacks, or supposable production cutbacks, because it's getting closer to their cost margins. So we'll have to wait and see how the next few weeks look like. But there is some positivity coming forward in Q2, where in Europe we are expecting to see a bit more stainless demand, big domestic stainless demand, just because of the quotas and the destocking in the European markets of stainless units. So we'll see if the EU safeguard has any effect moving forward. Whilst in the US, I guess, from what I understand, speaking to my colleague Estelle, she's mentioned that the US could still be under pressure just because of the cheaper replacement costs from either Brazil or from Europe.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tom, are imports a factor? Are they going to be a factor on the US domestic market?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the US is a bit more, it can control how many imports it will bring to the market, and of course, many sellers in the US markets don't want to bring too much in order to bring the price down. So there is some, I would say, safety in that regard for the US markets. But again, just looking at some of the arbitrage where we can see maybe a $600 premium in the US markets, and that's per ton if we're comparing Europe to the US. Wouldn't it be surprising to see some individuals bringing in cheaper material from Europe or from elsewhere into the US markets. But again, we'll have to wait and see. We haven't seen anything at quite lower prices for the time being, but we will have to wait and see how Q2 looks like in that regard. I know also that we have seen a rise out of Chinese ferrosilicon just because of production cutbacks in China, because prices were too low, and some producers have cut back production as a result to stop prices from falling even further. So maybe we'll see some support coming from the Asia markets over there to try and lift up prices there. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much, Alex and Tom, for your market insight. And for more information on the ferroalloys market, please look for your BFA weekly roundup delivered to your inbox.